So today we are looking at wingers. We have got everybody here. We've got icons, heroes, the whole shebang. There is a lot to go through, and the hardest point is when you do look at a lot of these wingers now, when, for instance, we do go through, if I move this back a little bit, you'll be able to see that. So if you're looking for coins, head over to eldorado.gg. There is huge amounts of verified sellers on Eldorado, and there is a money back guaranteed by TradeShield. If that's not enough, there is 24/7 live support and also plenty of reviews across websites that will definitely put your mind at ease. And as always, before you check out, make sure that you are using the code JT11 for 5% off every single order. Back to the video. Most of the icons, most of the top end players are coming in at crazy price. Now, if we do consider someone like Pinner, we know full well how broken she is in this game. She is phenomenal. Is she really going to go over a Dembele, a Bale, an Mbappe on left wing, a Vinny? Probably not. She's a cheap beast. She's going to go in more than likely into like an S category. Like I can gladly say that she is definitely broken for how much she truly comes in at. Low driven is just the one this year. Clearly, the shot is absolutely nuts. And we found that with Harry Kewell, we found that with Haaland, we found that with many of the players that low driven is just broken in itself. And then the fact that she has got 79 pace, it does not seem that way. If you've ever used her, you know full well she'll feel way faster than 79 pace. Whereas I've seen some players, someone like Doku, and Doku's probably a bad example because he is absolutely rapid. Great playstyle plus, but 91 pace in comparison. I'd love to see like a side-by-side running comparison with them without like the rapid plus, because in general it does feel like she could really keep up with a lot of the big boys in there. Now, when we do look at somebody like a Bale, for instance, he's obviously coming in at 2 million coins and is obviously impeccable. Like, everything about him is absolutely perfect. The main difference is when you do look at these cards and you kind of compare him, I still don't know where you get the comparisons here. Is it down the bottom somewhere? We've got chemistry, similar squads. I need to know where you compare because I'd love to see the stat difference between him and someone like a Dembele. Because when we do look at Dembele, you've obviously got the pace coming in at 92. So we've got 95, 89, 84, 89. Whereas when you look at Dembele, who's obviously up in there with him, 92, 88, 83, 94... you're going very similar now with some of the really big players. But then we look at somebody like... who should we go? Let's say Mbeumo, just because I know he's kind of in that middle ground. When we look at him, pace-wise, very similar. Shooting, very similar. Passing a little bit less. Dribbling a little bit less. But it's not like a crazy amount less. Like, it's definitely good enough. And when you do look at the upgraded version now, we kind of look at him. We've got, compared to Dembele, for instance, we've got 3 less pace. We've got 1 less shooting, 2 less on the passing, and then a whopping, like, 8 difference on the dribbling, and then physicality obviously in Mbeumo works. 5-star power shot versus the finesse shot, so naturally you're going to see, and then it goes into the in-game, it goes to their run type. There's a lot to really take in when it comes to it, but most definitely when you do look at some of the top players, especially the icons, even though some of the stats are not necessarily crazy difference, like they're not necessarily unbelievable, they are in-game, natural-born, crazy cards. Like a Ronaldinho is going to be worth every penny that you pay for him. 5 million coins is absolutely there. You look then further down the list, you've obviously got someone like a Jarzinho, Henry, Mbappe, they will all be in the striker list. They don't get part of this right and left wing because naturally you play for them more in a striking role, if anything. But you look at Jarzinho at 2 mil, Ginola at 1.7, Future at 1.7, Di Natale at 1.5. These are obviously cards that are always going to be in that top to start with. I don't think there's any question beyond belief with them. It's really where the kind of Chawinga comes in. Where does Beasley go? Where does Antony go? Because I don't think there's many that would take over that spotlight. You obviously have got the Jarzinho, you've got Garrincha. We then go further down. Where are they all? There is a lot to go through. Like I say, if you add the icons and heroes, the one thing that I think they've done really well this year specifically is it's not all about one player. Now, yes, we are very early into the game. I feel like a lot of players seem decent enough until we all get that Mbappe, till we all get that Dembele, where then they're the only ones that really matter. But for right now, I feel like you could definitely go with a Dembele, you could go with an Mbappe, an Henry, a Bale, a Ronaldinho, and then even further down, look at like a Diani, look at a Pinner, look at an upgraded Doué. They are all very, very good in that kind of middle to top zone. Now, Elite might be a little bit different. I'm not claiming to know what Elite really is like. I don't even want to know, because half of the people don't know what Elite's like. And even then, you kind of find that it's a specific team. I'm kind of enjoying more the different bases of players. I like playing with a large variety of the players, because otherwise, it's just a little bit boring. Everybody wants their team upgraded, but it's nice that we've got something like the Gauntlet to be able to not only have just a Ronaldinho, we could have a Bale in the mix. We could go with a Doué upgraded. We could go with a Doku on an evolution, and it would be absolutely fine. So just going through a few more, then kind of just throwing in a few of the standard ones. I've kind of got the Evo and Miss, which would be for someone like Doku. Realistically, he's not going to be used at an 80 now. We're already at the point where people already have their Nico Williams, they have their Pinners, their Doués, their Kvaratskhelia, Rafinha. A lot of people rocking a Yamal. So realistically, an 80 rated card is not going to come into play in them topper divisions, in them higher rated FUT champs, and if they do, he's either evoed or they're just insane at the game. Obviously, we throw Dembele to the top. I mean, if you've ever played against him, you know truly how good he is. And then we look at someone like Adeyemi. I'd probably go with an Evo with him as well. I do like the upgraded version. I think it's most definitely a nice kind of balance for him. We obviously got a massive upgrade from his 81 all the way up to an 86, and he got a massive upgrade on that shooting, which I think is the big part. Pace-wise, there's not much more you can do at 97. Even at 96, it's still phenomenal. He's got himself the Quick Step Plus, and in terms of the dribbling side of stuff, good composure upgrade, decent passing as well. This was kind of the next level for him, and most definitely puts his 81 to a little bit of more shame. Then obviously we've got the likes of Fatty, we've got kind of like your informs, your lower rated cards, your 81s, your 84s, something around there. And naturally, there might be a bit more of an Evo kind of for Fatty, if anything. Same with someone like Brand. As much as she's not in the Evo, I'd possibly be looking at a standard B, almost like a usable if you need. They're not necessarily going to be in a main team. Realistically, you're looking at S plus for the absolute elite. The S is most definitely affordable, but incredible cards. A is kind of your standard. So if I was thinking like an A, I would probably be looking somewhere around here, to be honest. I'd probably go for like a Doué. I think Doué is phenomenal, but his end product as a base card is just okay. Like if we compare him to a Yamal, we compare him to a Dembele, unfortunately, he's going to be 2 knocks below it. And obviously, we do have 2 of the actual Silver Star heroes. Again, with them, like, I mean, both of them are great for their own right in terms of being an icon hero. They obviously did make them into cards that won't perform against golds. Against silvers, they are brilliant. Like, they are fantastic. And we already saw a slight upgrade that you could have made with someone like Pele and also Bobby Charlton, which was, I think, a broken tactic anyway. But people have already got him now, so it makes no difference. But realistically, you do look at these stats and you kind of know that they're there as almost like if you want to use him, you can try. But realistically, you're going to be looking at an Evo at some point. I think right now, keep him for the silvers, absolutely fine. But naturally, they will be Evo'd at some point. Like, they will allow them to be Evo'd, I imagine. They already have kind of slipped through the cracks on 2 of the Evos. One you could do for a lot longer. So Pele, Bobby Charlton were in there. But then I think one was through a cup. And I want to say it was Garincha that could be upgraded. There was one of them, and I believe it was a winger that could get it. They didn't basically put the Silver Star exclusion in there straight away. Then obviously we look through a few more of the golds. Obviously Yamal, incredible as he always will come in. Diani is another one that is fantastic. And a lot of these golds are going to come in very, very well. They are the kind of best in the business. You look at the golds in general, if we go over to FUTBIM, we can obviously see if we go into this format and then we'll go into golds only. There is a solid amount of wingers this year that do very, very well. They upgraded quite a lot. Like, you've got your likes of your Vinny, who is immense, obviously. I mean, he's expensive as they come. But then you look at someone like your Nico Williams, you look at your Rafinha. Rafinha is absolutely crazy for the value that you're coming in with. I do think he's one of them ones that he would be that step below Vinny, but he most definitely will give you everything you absolutely need. Same with the likes of Salah. I think he comes in a bit more expensive, but nothing absolutely crazy. If I was looking at them, I think Vinny would probably go into the Dembele category, and Rafinha would drop one below him, in my opinion, when it comes to it. Same with the likes of Hansen. I think she's very, very good, but not as good as what I've seen in previous years. Previous years, there was no question with her. She was just the best of the best. Now, in terms of female wingers, obviously she's number one. But when it comes to generically over the games course, I definitely think she drops a little bit. Now, yes, we will obviously see her being upgraded. More than likely, a team of the year will be shouted out quite effortlessly. But then even then, you come down a little bit more. We look at the likes of Hemp, we see Chawinga, we see Kvaratskhelia, all coming in relatively cheap. Like, they're not necessarily that expensive. So it is always interesting to see the kind of lower rated cards really holding on this year. And most definitely, we've seen a lot of people use them throughout champs, and it's been a nice chance even after a month that we haven't been upgraded to the absolute nines, and we're seeing a lot of them being worked into a lot of these squads. So we've kind of got them all put around here. So when you look at them, realistically, we're looking at a Rashford. I know he's got an upgrade. He's going to be an Evo. That's a standard one. We then obviously see Mbeumo. I think he'd be very much like Doué. I like his upgraded card. I think it's definitely an upgrade that is well worth mentioning. But his base card is now slightly coming out the loop. This doesn't mean that the A category is not completely usable. It's most definitely a very usable sort of category. It's the S that a lot of people are obviously utilizing and working out really well. I think Kvaratskhelia, Hemp would definitely go in there. I think Leao definitely puts himself up there with Nico Williams. I'd go Rodrigo. I'd go Rodman, and I think Swanson would probably go into an A category now. With Wilson as a trio, potentially could go up, I think, as they do hold their links very nicely. NWSL, All-American, great links across the board, would work effortlessly. Salma would take over that spot, in my opinion. And I think Salah would potentially be dropped into there. I again, very much would be interested to see into maybe a more topper position. I potentially could go... I don't think Yamal's that good at it. Potentially could work with that. I think that would be the three that I would put in amongst Vinny and Dembele, but I definitely would prefer a Vinny and Dembele partnership over them three personally. Saka in this, I really, to be honest, I mean, just out of the fact that I think he's still in here just about, I don't think he's that good. I really think they've ruined Saka again this year. The whipped pass, it's just... he just doesn't have any threat going forward. And yes, upgraded cards will happen at some point, but it's always too late for him. There's always that next best winger. We've already got a Rafinha. We've already got then a Vinny. We've got a Dembele. And then he gets the upgrade. He needs the upgrade now, and that would be perfect for him. Give him the pace upgrade because he's not 84 pace. Give him a little bit more shooting. His dribbling's already on a decent level. He just needs a little bit more, and get rid of the whipped pass. Give him some short shooting. I know it's based on real life. That's fair enough, but he's just better than that, in my opinion. He's always been so underrated in FIFA specifically that he just needs a better card. And then that's the same for someone like an Odegaard as well. It's always been a De Bruyne, and then failing that, it's always been Bruno. And don't get me wrong, absolutely love Bruno, but Odegaard is still a very good player in general. So having a card that reflects that would be nice for both of them, because at least then they'd be semi-usable in this game. Then obviously we do look at a few more of the kind of higher variety cards. You're obviously looking at the likes of Hazard. You're looking at the likes of Ginola. I don't think there's really any question with Adina Tale either. I think everybody would absolutely love that card coming in. Finally get an upgrade before Footies, to be honest. So very interesting to see it himself. And when again you look down this list and you kind of look at the top ones, you kind of go by, if you go by price, if I can figure that out. I wonder if I do it like this. Will it go by price on this list as well? Yes, it does. So naturally, you kind of look down this list and you can kind of see the Futures, the Di Natales, the Leaos. I mean, they're pretty easy to kind of get into this list. I don't think anybody would have any question with them. Yes, icons will be slightly more expensive compared to the rest because naturally they are very, very difficult to pack. So it's not as if these are very obtainable cards. They're more expensive because they're very hard to get. But naturally, you'll always find that upgraded card that does very, very well. Obviously then, We look at the Vinny as well. He will obviously throw himself into this list pretty quickly. If we are looking a bit further down, we kind of look at like your El Warans now. Again, a solid upgrade for him when it comes to his Ultimate Scream version. We will obviously see a 99 stat for that one. 490 versus 250. I'd more than likely be looking at both of them realistically in the kind of S tier more than anything. I don't know if I'd go into an S plus with a Liao and a Janola. I think that would be reserved for most definitely some of the absolute top of the top players, so naturally you're going to see them in there. We then obviously have Oscar Bob, we have Bowen. I think they would kind of put themselves nicely in here. Carrasco, a little bit lower in my opinion, same as Benrahma. They potentially would be looking more towards an Evo once we get 85s in there, but they're very, very standard cards. There's nothing too crazy. Due obviously would go into the S. I think he's a lovely upgrade in comparison to his base version now. Can play in so many positions as well. And then we kind of go through the rest of the heroes. So if we was to just go with the variations of heroes here, we obviously have got quite a few that can play right and left wing or even right and left mid. We look at the likes of Hazard at 1.2. We then see Z Roberto, who could be argued between a centre mid, a left back, a left mid. I think he's standard in the left mid. I don't think I'd go too crazy with him. We've obviously got the likes of Beasley, of Harry Kewell, and naturally you're going to see them slowly going down the list. Like Beasley realistically isn't a crazy card. Again, he's got the rapid, which is nice. Same as McManaman. I don't think they're going to go in too nuts in this. So I'd possibly be looking like a Beasley into more of an A category. I'd say the same for Lundberg as well. Even with the upgraded card, it's not going to be too crazy. And then like we look at the Abarbos and we look at Javinos, they're going to be just on that next level once we get into it, and obviously coming into more of an S than anything. They are obviously at a decent price as well, which is always nice. They're not necessarily coming in too outrageous of like 400-500k, so that's always a nice category to have them in. We then obviously have got Gully, and then obviously like Z Roberto would be more S. McManaman would go into an A, very, very standard. Even Cole, I think, is kind of just your standard card. Future would more than likely put himself into the S, same as the Harry Kewell, and Lundberg would go roughly with his 87 and 86. We've got the 87 from one of the 85 times 87s, or 85 to 87 upgrade, and he was okay. I mean, he's a standard card. There's nothing too nuts with him, but he's not necessarily going to put himself into a category on his own. We then look at a few more of the kind of cheaper players. I'd be looking, Rodrigo would kind of go with himself here. I'd say maybe we'd be looking one up. I was almost marginally disappointed with him at times. I thought he should be better than what we can kind of see. I think with his obviously gold card, you could argue both of them are very, very similar. Now, he does have the 88 that's coming. It's not in this list at the moment as we are a long way away from actually getting that card. But naturally, we will see him kind of coming in later with that version, which should be relatively nice. It looks a solid card, so that will be an interesting one to say the least. Then obviously the rest of the icons that we've got in here, we're looking at Barnes, Beckham, Best, Pires, and yes, a lot of them will come in quite cheap. I think Pires still holds his own quite well. Again, with a finesse shot, it's a decent playstyle plus that not a lot of cards have, and it's kind of how they've made these icons slightly more relevant by having the gold cards in a very big fashion of not either having great playstyle pluses or just not necessarily having one in general. Now, obviously Barnes 270, a lot of the icons are still coming in at a pretty high price because we've had a lot of heroes that realistically, Janola, and I think, is that it? Janola's the only one who's not available in this max 88 hero pack. So obviously now we're starting to potentially get the Hazards, Barbos, obviously Javinos have been in it from the start. So realistically the Barnes potentially could come in more as an A, but realistically because of his capabilities and the fact that we've not had many icon packs, he's going to be a little bit lower. Beckham as a right mid, I really don't like. I think centre mid most definitely suits him down to the ground. Best would go up. Rivaldo would be more of an S, same as Nedved. Miami, obviously Figo would be another one who throws himself. I think if I was being really, really harsh, I think Pires, out of the icons we mentioned, potentially could be one lower. And I know his price will have dropped a little bit more because of the SBC, but realistically, I don't see him coming in at 200k, and I don't see him being worth 200k in this. which then gives us a few more. Obviously, Sala would go with his variation here. I don't think that's by any surprise, realistically. And then we kind of see a lot more of the special cards that come in that are always very interesting to see naturally. So if we do go one in on this, because we're going to not see many of the variations, we kind of then see a few more of these special cards like Anthony. I mean, he's a solid upgrade for himself, but he's not necessarily going into the top meta. Chwinga, potentially. I mean, she is a very nice super sub. Whether you're actually putting her in, you've got obviously... I don't know if they actually are sisters or not. They've just managed to get the last name. Let me double check if they're in the same nation. I want to say they are sisters, but yeah, they are the same nation. I'm pretty sure they were, but you've obviously got the Inform version in D1, who is considered the better version, but realistically at this point, they are kind of super subs more than anything. They're not necessarily going to go too higher than that. Same with the likes of Gakpo. I think he's definitely got a form to reach this year. Grealish, very standard, unfortunately. Same with Haley. Then obviously we look at the likes of Diaz. I think he's another nice card, but he again is very much like Saka. Like he deserves a little bit better. He could have done with a playstyle plus here. He's got a mountains amount of pace, but shooting is kind of on that half. Great dribbling on him. I'd potentially go a little bit up than Saka, but I think if I was being really harsh with him, I'd go into more of an S. Same with the likes of Frimpong. I like him as a right wing, and I think his position would suit it, but he's my right back. Unfortunately, he is going to be great pace, but he's going to be a right back. So as a right wing, I'd possibly say he could do a bit of a job, but realistically, it's not going to be too crazy. Pepe would obviously go into an Evo. Most of the 85s now would kind of be dropped down a little bit more. I'd say Pulisic and also the special Rashford on the right wing, easily into that S with Mbeumo. Messi is another one that I think could have been slightly better, and naturally we will get a better version of him. In terms of kind of what we see, Messi's just one of them players that if you can utilize him well, obviously he's going to go into the top. But do I think he really deserves it at times? I think he's kind of one of them that his positional play is going to be based on the body type being Messi's very own. They're going to make him slightly better, even at a lower rating, than a lot of these cards. You look at someone like a Dabina, who's also got mountains amounts of stats, and yet is a slightly bit cheaper than him. 5-star. She's got everything you kind of need. Unfortunately, she will drop down into kind of more of an S. Same as Felix. I think Nico Williams would obviously go next to his version. There's not necessarily a big upgrade between the two, which was bound to happen. The Cornerstone versus his kind of base version. There were never going to be two crazy cards next to each other, but he obviously is very difficult to pack with a lot of the Cornerstones. They're always going to be slightly difficult. Obviously, Son throws himself into the mix. I think Salma is outrageous. If you've managed to get her, she's a brilliant card. Same as Rodman, same as Elise. And then I'd possibly go Rolfo one down and James into that S as well. So there is a lot of cards here. So let me know down below what you think about this. We'll kind of put this into a list and try and keep the kind of frame going and seeing where the golds drop up or drop down, and if any new cards come in. For instance, we're getting UCL Prime Time, which is going to introduce a De Rossi and two others that I can't remember. I think Solgargo, I think Solgargo, something like that, and then a female player coming in the UCL. It'll be very interesting if they can introduce these new players, and it gives us a fresh perspective of a brand new card into the game, which I think will be massive if they do that here and there. Not doing it every single promo, as it'll lose its touch, but it'd be very interesting in general. So let me know down below what you think. Make sure you do like and subscribe on this, and I'll catch you all for that next one. Peace.